So, hello friends, welcome to the Kizuna India Japan Study Forum. The Kizuna India Japan Study Forum was launched in September 2022, that means just 4 years ago, by the MOSAI, which is an association formed by Indian scholars who spent a year or more doing research in Japan. The objectives of the forum are to explore, document, and bring to light the lesser known or under researched aspects of historical and cultural interactions between India and Japan, and to disseminate these findings through lectures, seminars, conferences, and publications. We also hope to present these insights in accessible and engaging formats such as short stories and illustrated snippets through Instagram and YouTube. In this spirit, we would be especially grateful if speakers could share by writing one brief paragraph of at least one anecdote emerging from their research on India-Japan interactions. They must, when they send this paragraph to us, they can send it at Kizuna email address. They must cite the source also, because we do not want concocted tales. We want tales which they have read and they are citing from some particular source. A brief narrative of this kind would help us to connect with the wider public and kindle fresh interest in this shared heritage of the two countries. In a span of 4 years, the forum has held 3 international conferences, and the papers presented in the first 2 conferences are already published in the form of books and also accessible on the internet. The Kizuna Forum also holds lectures on monthly basis. Today's talk by Dr. Amrita Satapathy is the 26th held under Kizuna lecture series. She will be speaking on An Odia Travels to Japan, Kailash Chandra Bharatkar's Japan Jatra. Let me introduce the speaker. Dr. Amrita Satapathy is an associate professor in the School of Humanities, Social Sciences and Management, IIT Bhubaneswar. Her research interests include life writings, travel writings, popular media and culture. Her publications include 2 books, Shifting Images, The Idea of England in Indian Writing in English, and Limning London, and several papers in reputed journals and chapters. She is also a reviewer of IGI Global Routledge, Taylor and Francis, Orient Black Swan, John Hopkins Press, etc. Welcome, Amrita, to this forum.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And now let me introduce the chair, another young scholar, Ms. Anvesha Sahu is a PhD scholar of English at School of Humanities, Social Sciences and Management, IIT Bhubaneswar. Her research interests include travel narratives, women's writing, autobiography, and Indian literature. And her publications include research papers, book chapters, and book reviews. So welcome, both of you, Anvesha and Amrita. And now I request the chair, Ms. Anvesha Sahu, to conduct the proceedings. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Professor Sushila Narasimhan, for your warm introduction. I am Anvesha Sahu, a PhD scholar at IIT Bhubaneswar. It is a pleasure and privilege to be here today to chair the lecture on An Odia Travels to Japan, Kailash Chandra Bharatkar's Japan Jatra, to be delivered by Dr. Amrita Satapathy. I am grateful to the Kizuna India Japan Study Forum for inviting me to chair the session. I would like to open today's session by briefly speaking about travel writing and Odia travelers who recorded their travels. So, travel writing present an author's lived experiences, observations, and insights into the historical, geographical, anthropological, social, and political aspects of the places. Travel in the 20th century came to be perceived as a leisurely activity, leading to a growth in mass tourism and a rise in the publication of travelogues as well as the readership. Modern travel writings demonstrate greater introspection on the part of the authors and endeavor to be interpretive and detailed in their documentation. They engage with host cultures and offer diverse and often progressive perspectives. Indian travel literature has a long history and encompasses a wide array of subjects and creative styles. Early travel accounts of Mirza Sheikh E. Tasamuddin, Mirza Abu Talib Khan, Trailokyanath Mukhopadhyay, R. Siddharth, Rabindranath Tagore, and Suniti Devi, among others, include travels within and beyond the country and the continent. Odisha, or the ancient state of Kalinga, located on the eastern coast of India, has a rich maritime history with relations of trade, commerce, and cultural exchange with various Asian countries. In ancient times, the Sadhavas, a community of merchant mariners, undertook long overseas voyages, acting as emissaries, strengthening the trade, cultural, and political relationships with these regions. These maritime activities and resultant travels to far-off lands find reflection in Odia Brahman Kahani or travelogues written in both verse and prose forms, depicting the literature, society, and cultures of the places traversed. Odia travelogues, written in the 19th and 20th centuries particularly, were geared at spreading awareness and knowledge of places that were not easily accessible to a rising group of enthusiastic and modern reading public. So authors such as Fakir Bhuvan Senapati, Radhanath Rai, Manoj Das, Surendra Mohanty, Mayadhar Mansingh, Pratibha Rai, and Sushmita Bagchi have contributed to this genre by infusing it with a sense of romance and modernism that changed the outlook towards travel in the sequestered Odia society. The fact that the quiet and unassuming Odia folk could be sharp-eyed and discerning explorers is something that can be identified now from the Odia folks' travel narratives. So, some of the Odia travel accounts that are written about Japan include Mahesh Chandra Rai's Tokyo to Kolkata or Tokyo to Calcutta 1907, Kailash Chandra Bharatkar's Japan Jatra or Journey to Japan 1911, Radhanath Rath's Japan Jatak or Travel Stories from Japan 1952, and Sitakant Mahapatra's Japan Ra Prathama Rajdhani Nara or Japan's first capital Nara 2008. This rich corpus of Odia travelogues is now gradually reaching a larger readership due to translations and academic engagements such as the one we are in today. So, having read Dr. Amrita Satpathy's travelogue Living London 2016, I'm more than looking forward to hearing ma'am decode another Odia traveler's lens, especially in a nation country. I would request you all to type your questions, comments, or any observations you may have in the chat box. Dr. Satpathy can address or discuss them after the talk. Okay, so we can start with the lecture, ma'am. You may share your PPT and yeah, we can see it. So thank you. Please go ahead.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you, Professor Sushila Narasimhan and Kizuna India for inviting me for this talk. I'm quite excited to talk about Kailash Chandra Bharatkar, and thank you so much, Anvesha, for the succinct introduction. So, can everyone see my PPT? Is it visible?
Yes, ma'am, it's visible.
Yes, yes.
All right. Okay. Without any further ado, so when I came across this travelogue, it was in a book called Ekanta Asia by Sangram Jena. And so when I read through it, I was quite fascinated to come across an Odia travelogue written in 1906 and published in 1911. And so it is an Odia travels to Japan. So it is Kailash Chandra Bharatkar's Japan Jatra. Not much is known about the writer. We've tried to find out a lot about him, but he remains elusive to us. So I hope after this talk, maybe somebody will come back to me saying who he is and where he's from. He's from Odisha, definitely. Anyway, so when Kailash Chandra Bharatkar started, he started from Kolkata. So, and he starts from Chandpal Ghat in Kolkata, and from on July 29th, 1906, and he includes and he stops at various South Asian nations, which have been illustrated here. And interestingly, everywhere he stops, he has some interesting snippets or anecdotes to share. So Bharatkar first stops. So Bharatkar actually talks. So the travelogue is divided into two sections, and he descriptively unravels his travels within Japan during its Meiji era, the nation, its history, the cities, citizens, the clothing, the fashion, the social customs. And he incidentally he writes that wherever whichever city he embarks or he deboards from, he gives a little bit of idea about the place. Bharatkar's first stop is Rangoon or Burma, and he tours the city. So as he tours the city, he talks about a lot of things that he finds very culturally familiar. So he highlights the relatability between the cultures, such as consuming of betel leaf in Burma. He compares the roads of Kolkata with Rangoon. He's fascinated by the Buddhist pagodas that he sees. He also observes how Asians remove their shoes to enter the temple, while the Westerners are not compelled to do the same. So it's very similar to the Indian tradition, where we also remove our shoes to enter, a temple, which is a sign of respect. Which he states that maybe a Western traveler may not be able to relate with. So Bharatkar, aware of Buddhism and Hinduism share similar values, considers this instance worth noting. His next stop is Penang, where he stops for 3 days. And in Penang, he observes and appreciates the architecture of the ancient Chinese temple situated on a mountain. Being from India, he also briefly mentions the Sikh population, which is incidentally there in Hong Kong. So that is when he goes to Hong Kong. So from Penang, Malaysia, he goes to Singapore for 2 days. Then from Singapore, he goes to Hong Kong, which takes 6 days. From Hong Kong to Shanghai, it takes 3 days. From Shanghai to Japan, it takes 3 days. And then Bharatkar, after 21 days, reaches Nagasaki, Japan. So by the time he reaches Japan, we find an Asian narrating Asia through the Asian eyes. So Bharatkar's work is he writes about seasickness, and he's very observant. He also gives you tidbits on how to avoid seasickness. So he tells eat well so that you don't feel nausea. So he seems like a very erudite traveler. So he observes the ports. So the travelogue is set against the backdrop of colonialism. So he observes that as well. And he identifies signs of discrimination. So in Shanghai, he comes across this written in an entry gate in a garden: dogs and Chinese are not admitted. So while in Hong Kong, he looks out for various cultural markers. So he says that a woman's beauty, he notices the foot binding practice. So he's very fascinated by it, he's very intrigued by it, but at the same time he's not for it, because he says that I noticed that women travel with a lot of unease after a certain point of time. So he doesn't like the way it restricts their mobility. So he comes across as a very perceptive and a very broad minded observer of, or a traveler. So he doesn't exactly see the place like a tourist, but more he's more involved with the places that he sees. So he also condemns malpractices against women on multiple occasions. He observes the position of women in the society. In Burma, he notices how men and women dress, and he very jocularly remarks that women are cleverer than men in handling business. So he enters. He comes to Japan. So he has learned a lot, and he has learned to see very clearly. And he doesn't exoticize anywhere. That's the beauty of his travel. So as soon as he reaches Nagasaki and Japan, like every other traveler, so Fuji comes to our mind all the time. So it is Mount Fuji that captures his attention. He observes. So he is very fascinated by Mount Fuji. He is fascinated by Mount Asama in Karuizama. Then Tokyo to he observes that from Tokyo to Karuizama there are 27 tunnels. So Bharatkar's tone is generally that of a traveler who's in awe of Japan. So for the first time, we find an Odia traveler who is very fascinated with the place, and who finds a lot of similarities as well as a lot of differences, which awake his senses of observation. So his descriptions include observations about the people of Japan, how they are industrious. So he sees them as an industrious and invincible nation. He outlines the major attractions such as Fuji and the significance associated with climbing it, comparable to a pilgrimage, which is also very similar to what we Indians also face. So we have our places where we go, and we think that it's a quite a cleansing thing. So spiritually we are connected with the mountain and the temple on top of it. So he talks about the cities of Tokyo, Kyoto, Osaka. He gives a vivid and anecdotal account of volcanoes. So he talks about Sirocco, Nasu, Kirishima. So he says that these are awe-inspiring and they are beautiful yet frightening. So he calls them Manohar. So Manohar is something that is very captivating. So he says Manohara. And then he talks of the beautiful lakes, Haruna, Chuzenji, Suwa, Kawaguchi, Biwa, and he talks about Japan's growing population, which he says in 1906 was 5 crores. So he gives a lot of statistical information. So for an Odia, I think, or for people of Odisha, this travelogue becomes quite, becomes like a general knowledge. So it opens the windows and the doors to a beautiful country. So he talks about Japan's growing population, and he also mentions that how Japanese are settling in countries like Australia, Hawaii, South America, Brazil, Korea, Manchuria. And then he says that Tokyo and Kyoto are prominent, and they are large cities. And Osaka is a captivating and charming port city. So he goes to all these places, and he also talks about the hobbies of the various people. And he says that and the other thing that he observes, so before I go to the hobbies, so the another thing that he observed is there are cottages by the lake, and these cottages become a sort of a summer resort for people who can afford them. And in these places, people, he says, they undertake nirdosa amodo, which is innocent pleasures like fishing, water sports, swimming. And but he's very critical when he went to Malaysia, and in Malaysia he went to Johor, and in Johor he comes across these gambling houses. So he's not for them at all. So he mentions them. And then he also, in while in Japan, what seems to have captured his attention is Meiji Dynasty, and he applauds the emperor's efforts to strengthen Japan as a military power. So, see, he observes. So, through his writing, we actually see a very confident and growing progressive Japan unfolding in front of our eyes. One which has, which is celebrating after its victory in the Russo-Japanese War 1904-1905. And Bharatkar uses very descriptive and qualifying adjectives like charming, beautiful, large, awe-inspiring, clean. So he says that the roads are very clean, and then he says the tunnels. He notices the electrification, the use of hydropower. The roads are very efficient. The railway system is very efficient. He talks about the 27 tunnels which connect. Tokyo and Kaizama, and all of them have electrification. And he notices that patriotism and nationalism among the Japanese is a very desirable trait, and how the people look up to their country. uh, he also comes he also praises so he also mentions that Japan is two-thirds covered with mountains, so it's a very mountainous region. And then he says that the only crops which are available and which can grow are rice, millet, wheat, potatoes, radishes. And he also notices that there are factories everywhere. And he says iron and bronze is available. And he talks about the use of silk, the farming of silkworms. And he also writes towards the end of his travelogue how the royalty also uh, kind of endorsed silkworm farming, and the royalty were also patrons of this farming. And he also goes on to mention that uh, primitive means of travel which were there at one point of time, like horses and palanquin, have been replaced by trams and electric trains. He calls Osaka the Manchester of Asia, so he notices a lot of factories. He says that minerals and ores like iron and bronze are available. And then he goes on. He's very fascinated by Lake Biwa, and he talks at length about it, and the beauty of Biwa, the picturesqueness of Biwa, and how restful it is looking at the, or how much of ease he is touring the place, and the comfort he finds looking at the lakes. Uh, and then he goes on to talk about the emperor. So Mutsuhito, he is all praises for him. He appreciates the emperor's efforts in building Japan into a nation of power and strength. And so he says that Emperor Mutsuhito is very hardworking and popular, and he is well loved by the people. And he's known for his punctuality, his perseverance, his diligence. He also mentions, in a very succinct way, how he never wastes his time. That right on dot at 8 a.m. he is at his office or in the court discussing with his ministers, who guide him on how to take decisions on policy matters, on finance, on so he talks about the army and the navy. So how the army and the navy have been uh, uh, made, and how they've become very strong forces. He also gives description of how strategically there are forts, military forts at different points in certain mountains, which provide protection to the country. He comes across as a very, very, very observant traveler. And then he also praises him because he is a poet, Emperor Mutsuhito. So he says, so he quotes one of his poems. So he says, "Should emergency arise, offer yourself courageously to the state." So he quotes him. And apart from the king, Bharatkar is equally in praise of Queen Haruko, and he praises the empress. He praises the efforts she has taken in becoming the a guide to the people, and how both of them have upheld traditional Confucian and Shinto values. And he also talks about how marriage laws have been revised, and for someone who comes from a pre-independence era, and is observing, has stepped out of Odisha, has stepped out of India, has gone all the way to Japan, taking 21 days, covering 6 7 cities. He certainly very appreciative of this effort. And probably from my reading of his travelogue, I felt maybe he has been there many times. It's not that this is his first visit. Probably this is his second visit. There are certain lines that kind of resonate that he's been here before, or there is some connection which has happened before. So he is very appreciative of the he says he calls the Queen Empress Haruko educated and compassionate, and quotes her poems at length. So, and he also mentions how popular Emperor Meiji was, and he actually uh, gives a very good detailed description of the picture that I'm showing you right now. So he says that the emperor was so popular that when the capital shifted from Kyoto to Tokyo, he was carried on a palanquin by the people for miles. And he mentions this incident very clearly. And so he's someone probably who's very aware of his historicity, who's very aware of the context. And there is another part to the travelogue where uh, uh, Bharatkar talks about the women in Japan. So he argues that the women have been instrumental in Japan's nation building and advancement, and how they are integral to the socio-economic status of Japan. So he tries to show that women, so he observes and he says that women were employed as workers in shops. They were also engaged in occupations like wool and silk work, bookbinding, making paper envelopes, weaving clothes, silkworm farming, which I've already mentioned. He also mentions that women worked as educators. So they held positions as officers, clerks in banks, companies, telephone offices, telegraph offices, railways. Um, he particularly mentions the art of Chanoyu, which is the tea making ceremony. So he is invited actually to a tea making ceremony, and he says that the female teachers who taught the art of Chanoyu made 30 rupees per month. And he is very intrigued, and he finds this he calls this an art. So, and he goes on to say that women are also used women also teach singing. So he says that Western music was taught in schools, but traditional Japanese music was taught at homes. So he gives very detailed information. And he says that singing, dancing, tailoring, the other thing that he mentions is flower arrangement. So he says that women were taught to make artificial flowers and creative flower arrangements, and this was a professional skill which women adopted and used it to earn money. And so people with such women with such skills were recognized as knowledgeable, skilled, and competent. So he's very so the kind of language that Bharatkar uses when he particularly talks about women and working women in Japan, the middle class working women, I mean, we find a very progressive traveler in him. There's another interesting thing that he mentioned. So I was mentioning he was invited to a tea ceremony. So he says that I was invited to one such ceremony, and it took 30 minutes to present the tea, 15 minutes to consume it, and almost an hour for the final curtsies. So uh, he finds this entire ceremony very beautiful, and at the same time he almost becomes like an ethnographer in the entire travel, during his entire travel. And he goes on to mention all these tidbits that he sees. And then he uses so I forgot to mention, there is one more interesting word that he used. So when he notices the volcanoes, he calls them bhayankara. So bhayankara is something that is awe inspiring, that is fascinating, that is intriguing, at the same time that is frightening. So it's very interesting the kind of words he uses. He calls the lakes Manohara. He calls the malpractices that he sees as ku pratha, which is so ku is bad, pratha is ritual, or so it's not he's not appreciative of it. So there are certain key terms that he keeps using throughout his travelogue in order to bring out the beauty and the essence of Japanese culture. The beautiful thing that I noticed about him, about this writing, is that it's very modern in its approach. So when I was going through some interesting like I was trying to find out some interesting articles on Japan by Odias, I came across a blog probably, and it was probably written in 2021. And incidentally, the person who had written the blog had compared Odisha and Japan. And I was quite surprised to see that the points which he had mentioned for Japan are almost the same points that Bharatkar has used in his travelogue. For instance, the person who has written in 2021 says that two-thirds of Japan is mountainous in geographically. Bharatkar mentions the same. He calls the streets clean. Bharatkar also mentions the same. So Bharatkar says that the streets of Japan are up and down, but they are very wide and clean. So this person in 2021 also talks about the purity of Japan, that if you are looking for something authentic, something pure, Japan is the place. And Bharatkar nowhere does he uses cliche or the idea of the oriental or the idea of talking about exoticizing the place. He never uses any such terms to fix Japan in a particular mold which Westerners keep doing. And so his work Japan Jatra is actually uh, it's actually Jatra in many ways, because Jatra in Odia means journey. So it's a journey which changes him. So it's a traveler's journey where his where there's a lot of ethnographic and cultural context. He tries to capture the zeitgeist of early 20th century Japan. And so he mentions each and everything that fascinate him, or that capture his imagination, or something that he has not seen in Odisha, or something that he has not found in Odisha, or something that is very similar to Odisha. So there is one last point that I would like to talk about. So Bharatkar, during his journey, comes across hairstylists. So these are women hairstylists, and they so he tries to draw a parallel between the Japanese and the Odia counterpart. So the Odia counterparts, he calls them Barikani or Bhandaruni. So Barikani is the wife of the barber, and Bhandaruni are people who offer their services during festivals, and they assist their husbands during funeral rites. So these are people who trimmed people's hair or nails, and help them look good. So he says that when he sees women stylists in Japan, he is reminded of these. Although the comparison is a little crude, uh, because but still it kind of fascinates him that there are. So he always thought that in Odisha you have Barikani and Bhandaruni, but he sees similar, more sophisticated, professionals and women professionals in Japan. So that is something that captures his attention. So he tries to draw these parallels between Odisha and Japan, and he tries to. Uh, his language is very simple. He doesn't beat about the bush. It's not ornamental in nature either, and it's very plain, it's very factual. He gives a lot of numbers, there's a lot of statistics, and so it's a very meticulous observation of location, people, culture, social custom, the political development. So generally travel writing, the genre of travel writing historically and in the contemporary context, play an important role in promoting cultural exchange and intercultural dialogue, discovery, exploration, preserving cultural heritage, and providing insight into global politics and perspectives. So, Japan Jatra offers a very unique perspective of an Asian and Indian and an Odia. So through his eyes. So Asian travelers journeying to Asia contributed to a lot of wealth about Asian countries, and which also gave the Asians a lot of legitimacy and currency. So usually we were defined by the West. So this was one way of engaging with the West and telling them that look how culturally aware we are, and how culturally we are, dominant we are, or vibrant. So there is no discernible splintering of identity in Bharatkar actually. So the person, the author, and the traveler are very are in sync with each other, and the kind of gaze that he has is not of a tourist gaze but a traveler's gaze, which is very objective in nature, and there's a lot of factual information. And he gives a bit of geography, he gives a bit of anthropology, he gives a bit of history, he explores socially the place, he interacts with the people. So from the essay, I think from the travelogue, we also come to know that he has interacted with the people. It's not that he has been an outside observer, so or as an outsider. He is very involved in the process. So in a way he has also challenged how the colonizers looked at us. So I found that we have a lot of less idea about Asian travelers traveling within Asia and talking about them, especially the early 19th century travelogues. So this Bharatkar's travelogue Japan Jatra comes across as a very nuanced way of talking about the country. Uh, so my narration. and I hope I haven't taken much of a time. So thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for that fascinating talk, ma'am. Ma'am, you may stop sharing so we can all see each other.
Yes.
And I did not realize that we did not have a chat box enabled, but okay, let's do this. I'll briefly summarize what ma'am has touched upon today. And meanwhile, you can, the audience members, if they want to ask any questions, they can be prepared with it and we can get to that afterwards, right? Okay.
Yes, and
Okay. So Dr. Satpathy detailed Bharatkar's travels and his voyage through Calcutta, and while he is reaching Japan in 1906, exploring his routes and stops at several Southeast Asian nations and entrepôts, including Rangoon, Penang, Singapore, Hong Kong, and Shanghai. The author acknowledges the shared socio-religious traits and shared ideas that link South Asian civilizations, leading travelers within the cultures to seek relevance and examine such beliefs with reverence rather than incredulity. So these kinds of instances that Bharatkar notices also notices and chooses to describe are inextricably linked to his cultural capital and knowledge. So ma'am has also elucidated Bharatkar's travels within Japan during the Meiji era, the nation, its history, cities, clothing, livelihoods, technological advancements, and customs. On an individual level, the traveler appears specially captivated by the Meiji dynasty and the poet Emperor Mutsuhito. The traveler author offers a vivid account of volcanoes, lakes, hot springs, sacred places, flora, fauna, and the crops of the region. What becomes apparent in the work is the prevalence of British colonization at the time in many Asian countries. Since it is an eyewitness account that distinctly exhibits the observations of the traveler through an Odia lens, which were characterized by the emerging anti-colonial sentiments at the time, the example of which is the signboard at the public garden in Shanghai. So Bharatkar also offers his insights into women's livelihood and sustenance in Japan, explicating the importance of women's education and the major sources of employment for the Japanese women in the country. He also attempts to draw parallels to Odia women professionals that Dr. Satpathy has very interestingly touched upon and compared them to. So apart from that, she has also touched upon the multifarious meanings of Jatra and how it achieves something more than, let's say, Brahman, which would mean wandering, and Japan Jatra, where it means journey. The journey part is emphasized. So Bharatkar also comes across as a learned and astute observer than a mere spectator. It becomes evident that gazing goes beyond simply utilizing the sense of sight. As a curious traveler, he brings to the forefront the commonplace elements within his visits and offers his observations, not exactly trying to be sanctimonious. So I would also like to add here John Arie's statement on gazing. So he says gazing is not merely seeing, but involves cognitive work of interpreting, evaluating, drawing comparisons, and making mental connections between signs and their reference, and capturing signs photographically. And individual performances of gazing at a particular site are framed by cultural styles as well as personal experiences and memories. So, with that, I would like to open the floor for questions. You may unmute yourself and ask ma'am your questions. Please go ahead, ma'am.
Me?
I see a raised hand.
Yeah. Anvesha, you are telling me?
Yes, I see a raised hand. Okay.
Okay. Okay. Yes. Thank you very much for your fascinating presentation, Amrita, and also your summary synopsis of Amrita's lecture. In fact, when you showed me the slide of that board which says dogs and Chinese are not admitted. You know, the same board, this was put up in after 1853, after the British had signed the Treaty of Nanking after the Opium War. And so many Indians, not Bharatkar, so many Indians and Bengalis had passed that, when they sailed to Japan. I mean, they must have touched Shanghai also. But nobody
Yes.
mentioned the Japanese who went in 1862. That was the first time the Japanese directly, officially went to Shanghai. They mentioned, they saw it, and they took a photograph. And I'm surprised that after that, it is Bharatkar who uh, took that picture. Oh, did he take the picture of that board?
No, no, no. He mentions it. I'm trying to find out the line. This was a picture that we both found, Anvesha and I. We put it. So I'll just mention it to you. So I'm just trying to look for it. So Singapore. So this was Shanghai. So this was
Anyhow, it's
after.
not important that he took the picture, but he mentions.
Yes, yes, yes.
Nobody
Yeah,
else mentioned, which means he was also comparing, the effects of colonization on various Asian countries.
mm-hmm. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. He mentions. In fact, he mentions that Shanghai re Yangtze Kiang Nodi. He mentions the Yangtze Kiang River, and then he mentions that he mentions this line that it was written there. So Hong Kong, then Shanghai. I'm just looking for it here, but the print is very thin and it's very
Okay,
weak.
okay,
So
okay.
I'm trying to find out.
Hmm. Because so many Bengalis went, and in fact, from this Ekant Asia, I also come to know that after the famine in Odisha, many people from Odisha, they migrated to Rangoon. I mean, they went to Rangoon.
Yes,
And
yes.
Rangoon, and because of Nippon Yusen Kaisha's connectivity to Rangoon, because Calcutta, Rangoon, and Penang, Singapore, they were on the same. They were all ports of call. So it became very easy for the people of Odisha to go to Rangoon and from there sail to Japan. So did Bharatkar also meet some fellow Odia in Japan? Does he write anything?
Actually, in the beginning, he writes that he was supposed to go with some friends, but there is some. The ship was supposed to sail not on 26th. It was supposed to not on 28th. It was supposed to sail on 30th, but he set sail early, so he is unable to meet friends. And he just says there are two, three people with him. Probably they are Bengalis, not Odias,
Okay.
uh, not in particular terms does he mention.
Okay.
Yes, he also, yes, he mentions this. So there was so in Shanghai there is a public garden, he says, and then he says kukura manankara prabeso nisedha au china manankara prabeso nisedha. So
And the way he
dogs
writes
and
it, it is also
yes,
like he shows surprise at it. He's not
yes.
accepting it on its face value. So that does
Hmm.
show some kind of a anti-colonial sentiment under the surface, but not too. He can't be too obvious about it at the time when he's writing.
Hmm. No,
And
because
then he
Shanghai belongs
mentions,
to China, and
yes, he
still the
mentions that.
Chinese people are not allowed to enter. So this
He
is
puts it
something,
in bracket. So he
yes.
puts in bracket, he says, Prakash Thau, let it be
Hmm.
noted, कि
Hmm.
Shanghai चीनର ଅନ୍ୟତମ ବନ୍ଦର. So
Hmm.
Shanghai is a port of China. So he
Hmm.
mentions it in brackets. So his use of punctuation marks is also very interesting. So he uses a lot of exclamation mark, full stop, brackets. So he seems like probably I feel that he is probably he was an administrative officer or he was in excise or maybe I don't know where he is from, but he's extremely cheeky in some ways and the kind of sentences he uses, and so it's very interesting actually.
if I can add a little thing here, some other Odia travelers at this time, they are more obviously party to the colonial powers, and it's
Yes.
more mediated by colonial powers, and they are, and because they have been funded by these government officials and from these agencies, so they are when you read them, you can't really sense this much of unease with such instances. So I think Bharatkar also stands out here, even if it's not too obvious. Up from compared to his peers, he is also looking at these things and thinks that these things are worth noting.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
I can see Ashok sir raising his hand. Yes.
Yes, sir.
Sir, please unmute yourself.
Sir, we cannot hear you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much. Extremely interesting and insightful presentation, if I may so. There's one observation about comment you mentioned which caught my attention. Rupees 30 per month is the earning. It's noted somewhere. I mean, this is the
Yes.
first time I'm hearing, I'm coming to know that somebody, travelogue, mentions this figure, 30 rupees per month for the tea ceremony teacher. That's very interesting. Does he mention any other similar figures for monetary compensations? Because very little is known about that.
Yes, sir. Actually, this essay is not a part of Japan Jatra.
I
This is
see.
another essay which was published by Bharatkar a few years later. So in Utkal Sahitya. So
And
I
yes,
happen to remember that it
I
was,
see.
so actually it is 3 parts. So this is a part of Japan Jatra, but Sangram Jena has combined Jatra and Japan or Tahara Rajabangsa, which is Japan and its dynasties, and this essay, which is on women's livelihood. And so what he has done is, the Bharatka wrote it in 3 parts. Sangram Jena has included 2 parts, and he has clubbed it under Japan Jatra. And the second one, which Anvesha actually found out in Utkal Deepika, no? Anvesha?
Utkal Sahitya, the third
Utkal
part.
Sahitya.
Yes.
Yes. So the third part she found out, and then we discovered that yes, there are a lot of mentions of monetary, financial receipts and finance of how much earning a person makes for every profession.
Is that available in translations, the particular one you're talking about?
We
No,
no,
sir.
it's not available, and we can't be sure how accurate the pricing, the earnings are. But that is what he mentions, and he mentions that 2 places, that the women in hairstyling occupations, they are also earning 30 rupees, and the women who are teaching tea ceremony, they are also earning 30 rupees. And interestingly, at the time in Odisha, women educators were also earning 30 rupees. So that also is what we found during our research, although we can't say for sure how accurate his observation of
Yeah, but
Japanese
doesn't
women's
matter.
earning would
Yeah.
be. Yeah.
So I will sort of summarize this point because I feel this is a very interesting description. Very little is known about these women's occupation, which is so similar to what we find in India.
Yes, yes.
So I think this little more description, a paper or something on this particular aspect would be very, very useful. The second
Yes,
is
sir.
a general point. Being in IIT, do you think there is interest in IIT students to know about history and culture of Japan? I'm asking this question for a particular uh, point of view of interest to our activity, the Kizuna Study Forum activity. We want to popularize these short anecdotes about Odisha's views of Japan, Odia view of Japan, and so on and so forth. And I was wondering whether this kind of small narrations would interest the students. What is your general feeling about? Because IITs normally don't take much interest in history and
Yes, sir.
just, yes.
Yes. Sir, we could certainly gather a few interested students who are interested in travel, because IITs do pay them to travel. So they go for conferences abroad. So
Yes,
I'm
yes.
sure they'll have something interesting to share. Anvesha went to Malaysia. Where did you go? Thailand. Thailand last year. And she had some interesting things to observe and say as well. There are only three of us working on travel writing. So there's Dr. Swati Krishna S, Anvesha, and me. So we are the three working in travel writing. I had an intern, a student from School of Mineral Material and Metallurgical Sciences, who did an internship under me. He wanted to learn creative writing, so he chose travel writing. So apart from us four, I haven't come across a fifth person, very honestly. But we can certainly interest students. We can certainly get some feedback from them. I can arrange or mobilize them to come forward, and if they are interested in presenting. We had one scholar visiting Japan 1.5 years back, and
Yes.
she was a scholar in economics. She got her degree this year, and she found, I mean, her even her stories are very similar to what Bharatkar writes. So what struck me was how contemporary the writing is, Bharatkar's writing,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
and how what he saw in 1906 still holds true and continues to hold true in 2025 and 26 as well. So she had very similar things to say. The food is good, the cuisine is interesting, the roads are clean, the people are helpful, which Bharatkar also notes in his travelogue. So he says people are very industrious, people are very hardworking, both men and women are hardworking, and he says
Yes.
that both have contributed to their economy. It's something that probably he finds very strange, because the situation was not so in Odisha or India. Probably, so when I read this, I was reminded of Sarojini Naidu. Probably she was one of the only women poets who said that women should step out of the boundaries, confines of their homes, and join men and everyone in contributing to national progress. So it's very similar to, so he kind of, there is a macroscopic and microscopic connection between all of these speakers and writers and travelers. Sarojini Naidu herself was also a traveler. And so, sir, I can certainly interest some people. I'll try my best. It will be for me, good for me as well.
Thank you so much. Greatly
Thank you,
appreciate.
sir. Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you.
We'll keep all your points, we'll keep it noted.
Thank you.
In fact, only 2 days back, Amrita was asking if there is anybody who can teach them Japanese language. So interest in IIT is growing among young
Yes,
scholars and
yes.
students. So maybe
Yes.
Dr. Jain can suggest somebody.
Yes, sir, that will
Sure.
be very helpful. So we are looking for instructors who can give us Japanese instruction, because we have signed certain MOUs with some Japanese country companies. So we are the career development cell is actually looking forward to having Japanese instructors. We did have Japanese lessons online, but it didn't have many takers towards the end. So there were only 3, 4 who continued till the end. So from 81, it went to 3, 4. So I think having a person on campus would be great. And we can actually do some Indo-Japanese academic collaborations.
Good. Good to hear that. Yeah.
I see a raised hand by Gaurang Charan Pradhan. If you want to ask, you can unmute yourself.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, Amrita, Professor Amrita. It's interesting. I mean, I'm Gauranga. I work here in Japan. I myself is a Odia actually. So I
Yes, sir.
am
Hello, sir.
interested in this. Actually, I was collecting materials on Bharatkar as well, and actually there are few other Odiyas as well who were in Japan during this time, and most of them are in Tokyo University, and there are materials in Tokyo University's old records where you can find their names and all those. I have collected some of them. That's one thing. Another thing, there are a couple of questions actually I wanted to ask you. Actually, I was interested in him as well. So one thing is Bharatkar. The surname Bharatkar is not Odia, right? I mean, as far as I know, it's not very prevalent in Odisha, and it's more prevalent in Maharashtra actually. So I was wondering, I mean, what make you think that it could be, I mean, Odia? I mean, that is possible. I mean, I know many Odias actually who are in Odisha who speak Odia, and they can, I mean, they can write in Odia, but many of them are, I mean, settled in Odisha, and they came from Bengal or maybe other parts of India, like Patel, right? Patel and all. So I was wondering, I mean, if there is any reason for you to say that he is Odia, except that he can write in Odia, right? That I
Yes.
understand.
Actually, Anvesha and I did Google the title
Mhm.
Bharatkar, because, as you rightly pointed out, Bharatkar is not an Odia title, but
Mhm.
we came across certain names which have the title Bharatkar, and they are Odia people. Probably in some LinkedIn or Facebook pages which showed
Mhm.
names and it showed Odisha. But
Mhm.
we've had Marathi people staying in Odisha since decades, and we've had a strong Maharashtra Odisha connection always. So, in fact, one of our I think poets was also Odia poets was also a Marathi.
Mhm.
Like
Okay.
he came from Maharashtra and settled in Odisha. I cannot remember his name, but he's a very famous poet. Um,
Mhm.
so maybe he is Marathi who settled in Odisha.
Mhm.
I called Sangram Jaina, and I tried to find out a lot about him. There's another Odia scholar who has also worked on Bharatkar, and she has published this on the same but in a slightly truncated manner, because I probably the journal had a uh, word limit. So she has published in a targeted manner. I contacted her as well. She said, I'm equally lost. I'm also looking for him. Anvesha and I visited the Odisha archives. We couldn't find much, except that we found about the timeline and how the ships traveled from Odisha to Kolkata to other South Asian places.
Uh,
So yes,
Thank you.
so
Yeah,
the
interesting. I mean, actually, yeah, I mean, probably you are talking about Sridhi Das, right? I mean, which
yes, yes,
teaching in
yes,
DU,
yes,
right?
yes, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm
I mean,
talking about Sri Divas. Yes,
she has written an essay some couple of years back,
yes,
actually,
yes.
and
I
actually,
contacted
Jatin
her.
Naik, Professor Jatin Naik has also written on him
Yes, I contacted
briefly.
sir, who happens to be my
Hmm.
supervisor as well.
Okay,
So
yeah.
I contacted
That is
him as
another
well.
thing. That is another point actually I wanted to ask you. This is, I mean, you are talking about 1906. I mean, this his travelogue appeared, Bharatkar's travelogue appeared, right? So in Utkala
Yes.
Sahitya.
Hmm.
Uh, 1906, as you know, it's just after Russo-Japanese War, right?
Hmm.
So Indians, and most of the Indians, if you read those articles, I mean, there are a whole lot actually, thousands of articles and papers on Japan written by Indians during just immediately after 1904, 1905 war, and most of them are actually positive. I mean, it's extremely positive. I mean, some of them are unbelievably positive, actually. The thing is, so probably we need to look at in a little different way. I mean, because the same opinion, it will change after, say, in late 1920s, once Japan started occupying Korea and then started going to China in early 1930s. So the immediately many of them are different opinions, right? So actually, while listening your talk, I was thinking about another Odia person who came to Japan in just after Second World War in 1946-47, who was here for 2 years, and he has written a travelogue and some 10, 20, 50 pages, something like that. It's available on internet, and exactly similar kind of stuffs he has also written, right? So I'm wondering. I don't work much on travelogue, and I don't have much expertise on those things. So I was wondering. All those are reports are very similar kind of stuffs. How do you? As individuals, I don't think, we can have similar, same experience. We could have different experience in Japan, right? So what do you think about those? One thing is that Russo-Japanese war is a very important, turning point for, the opinion about Japan in India. It's impacted a positive way. So that could have been a reason for Bharatkar to, kind of that Meiji emperor going from it, and that is not only in India. It was also happening in West, Europe and America. A lot of European and Americans, they are also talking about Meiji emperor, how he's going to Tokyo and all. So that could have been one of the reasons. I'm not doubting, but I'm wondering how genuinely Bhartkar's traveler we should rely on actual information from Odia person during that period. If you have any, it's a difficult question, probably.
Excuse me, with permission from chair, we are running short of time. So, Amrita, can you just
Yes.
answer Dr. Pradhan's query in short, briefly, and then later on, we can exchange our points via email. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. So I don't have much of an answer for him. All I can say is, because it's a travel account, so it's an eyewitness account. And as I said, he uses a lot of descriptive adjectives, which someone who hasn't seen won't be able to use. So I cannot sit from the comfort of my home and narrate a country unless I'm seeing it with my eyes. So there's a lot of uh, description which a person who is seeing firsthand or experiencing firsthand will be able to narrate with that much of credibility and authenticity. So the language is not a made up language. It's something that kind describes very vividly, very lucidly, with exact terms. So the exactitude, so the nature of exactitude of the language is also something that brings in this quotient of reliability in the travelogue. So, and he is there, he comes across as someone who has learned his history, who is aware of the socio-political context. So I guess from my understanding of his essay, it's quite authentic, and whatever he sees he narrates, and whatever he has narrated he has experienced. So from that way, probably we could look at somebody who has gone beyond 1906 and has written something on Japan, probably after 10 years or 20 years, and then we could do a comparative, and we could see how are the differences in the language, or what the other person faces, and how he or she faces Japan. So maybe we could do a comparative later, and then we could find out about the positive nature or the negative aspect of the place.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. So, with your permission, Sushila, ma'am, I would like to conclude on my part. So, as we can see, travelogues like Japan Jatra serve as an invaluable repository as they incorporate knowledge from diverse domains such as historiography, sociology, politics, ethnography, and geography. Such overlooked travel narratives, in no uncertain terms, do add to the grand narratives and challenge the colonial discourse and a singular idea of what a place can or can't look like. So and offer alternate and layered perspectives. So eyewitness accounts such as Bharatkar's reclaim the East as a dynamic and significant place of knowledge, history, and science, especially considering the time frame when he's traveling and writing about it. So hence there is a need to rediscover travel writings produced in regional languages, such as modern Odia travelogues. I'll finish here, and it was a pleasure to hear Dr. Amta's views on Bharatkar's Japan Jatra. I again thank the Kizuna India Japan Study Forum for giving me the opportunity to share this exciting and insightful session. I'm now handing it back to you, Sushila ma'am. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Amrita, and thank you, Anvesha. Both young, dynamic scholars and a very fascinating session. And actually, so far, we had been focusing upon the Bengali travelers and Bengali travelogues, but Destination Japan also exerted appeal on people from other parts of India. I mean, now Odia travelogues are also coming up. And now you tell me that from Kerala.
Yes, there are. Yes.
So there were people from Kerala. There were people from Andhra, Telugu
Gujarat.
travelers,
Yes.
Marathi, Gujaratis, and Sindhis, Parsis. You know, everybody knows, and they have all been well documented. But very few know about these travelers from South India, and so thank you very much for the fascinating subject, and I hope you will stay in touch with Kizuna India Japan Study Forum. In fact, now
Definitely, ma'am.
we have
Definitely.
collected so much information on these travelogues that I think there can be a conference only on travelogues.
Yes, ma'am, please do it. We'll be happy to be a part of it. We'll
Hey.
join you, Anvesha and I.
You host it?
Yes, sir, definitely. We'll work out something.
We can have a workshop, one day workshop at
Yes,
least, something
yes.
we can.
1 day, 2
Because-
days, we can have
Yes,
no issues.
Excellent.
Bengali travelers, Odia travelers, Telugu travelers, Malayali travelers, Marathi travelers, Hindi travelers, Gujarat, Punjab, you know, so many.
So many, yes.
Yeah.
Very fascinating.
Yes, fascinating. So I
In fact,
would like to,
ma'am,
yes.
Ibnu Battuta comes to India, and the point he touches is Kerala. From Kerala, he goes to Sri Lanka.
Yes. So it was indeed a pleasure meeting both of you. And I would like to thank all the participants for their interest in Kizuna activities and joining us via Zoom. The next lecture, that is 27th lecture, is in June by Ms. Ankana Bagh. She is a PhD scholar, Vishwa Bharati Shanti Niketan, and she will be speaking on Bengali travelers in 19th century, P.C. Mazumdar and Krishnala Basak. So I hope you will also join, since you are interested. Both of you are bound by your interest, a common interest in travelogue. So I hope to see you in June also.
Yes, ma'am.
And
We'll be there.
please remember, I requested you earlier also, you know, since you are involved in such studies, please send us one brief paragraph of some nice story, short story, and you must cite the source. And we would like to put it and try to reach out to young scholars and general public via Instagram and YouTube. Thank you so much.
Short story, ma'am. Could you repeat a short story?
Short story or anecdote or
Relating to India, Japan.
Relating to India, Japan.
Relating to India, Japan.
Yeah,
Okay.
which you have studied, because you must have come through lots of things. It is not possible to tell everything in 25-30 minutes. So in case there is, you think that, you know, there is something which would interest the young children, the public, the society, so please send it to us. Just one
Sure,
paragraph, one half page.
I'll keep it in. Yes. Anvesha and I will work on it, definitely.
Yes.
Finally, Sushila.
Thank you so much.
May I say that normally what we do is the chairperson and the speaker, they are included in a particular tab which we have, associated scholars.
Yes.
So we will put both of you with your photograph as we already have and a short CV under that tag, so that anybody who visits our site, the web page, will know who all are associated with us. We already have some 83 people in it. So both of you, with your permission, we'll add that. We will not mention your email or contact so that you don't get bothered. Okay? Is that okay? You will get a
Definitely, sir.
formal email. Yes.
Yes,
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you.
Thank
Yes,
you
sir.
so
It's
much.
fine.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, Sushila
Thank
ma'am.
you so much.
Thank you so much,
Thank
sir.
you.
It
Thank
was a
you.
pleasure interacting with all of you. Thank you so
Yes.
much.
Yes. Same
Yes,
here.
for
Thank
having
you.
us, for giving us
Thank
this
you.
opportunity to discuss on
Yes,
an
I'm
Odia
sure you will
travelogue.
get some more information on Bharatkar. What was
Yes.
his origin, whether his forefathers must have been Maharashtrian who migrated to Odisha.
Yes.
Because at that time there were many
Yes.
people's movement. So
True.
many Odia people, they settled in Rangoon. So, I met somebody, I thought he was a Burmese. So he said, no, I'm an Odia. So it becomes very difficult sometimes to make out what is the exact origin. So,
Exactly.
yes.
Porous
Thank
boundaries.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yes. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank
you
you. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you again,
Bye-bye.
ma'am, and sir,
Bye.
for the opportunity. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Sushila, can we talk later?